Hi, welcome to Someone Else's Movie, the original podcast where an actor, writer, director, or nebulous industry figure gives a little love to a movie they didn't make. I'm Norm Wilner, I'm a programmer at TIFF now, and this is the other thing I do. My guest this week is Charlotte Le Bon, an actor and filmmaker you might remember from her appearances in Michel Gondry's Mood Indigo, Lasse Hallström's 100-Foot Journey, or Robert Zemeckis' The Walk. She just turned up in a key role in Mimi Cave's Fresh, and her directorial debut, the charmingly creepy coming-of-age romance Falcon Lake, opens across Canada this Friday, October 14th, after a film festival run that took it to Cannes, Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver. Charlotte picked Luca Guadagnino's Call Me By Your Name, which was a minor festival sensation itself in 2017, making an instant star of Timothee Chalamet as the young hero Elio, whose summer in northern Italy with his father, an archaeology professor played by Michael Stuhlbarg, leads to a transformative romance with a grad student played by Armie Hammer. The culmination of Guadagnino's Desire trilogy, following I Am Love and A Bigger Splash, Call Me By Your Name had a far more seismic impact on cinematic and popular culture, even if certain elements of it haven't aged as well as others. Also, we recorded this in a space that turned out to be not quite as quiet as I'd hoped. Sorry about the background noise. This is Someone Else's Movie.
There was this thing, a quality that is very, very precious for me in a movie, that when I watched it, I remember I watched it in the theaters, and the way he filmed everything, and the way, the places where he decided to put the camera, and the way he filmed his actors and he directed them, I forgot that I was in a movie. I was just, he just took me, and I traveled with those two guys for like an hour and a half. And I feel this is like a quality that I really, really like in movies, when you forget that you're actually watching a movie and you're just with them. And I think it's a very incredibly difficult thing to do, because it's all about it's about stepping back as a director and not trying to impress by the type of movements that you want to choose, or the angles that you want to choose to tell something. And it's really just about the story, and make the story the star of the film. So that's why I watched it probably like 35 times before shooting Falcon Lake. It was a very interesting thing to do without the sound too. You watched it without the sound. Yeah. Well, I watched it a lot of times with sound, but at some point when you really want to understand the way he did his shot list, you have to watch it without the sound, and everything becomes so much clearer.
Yeah. I've had that occasionally. I was in a bar once, and Poltergeist was playing on the big projector, and I realized I couldn't hear it. It just wasn't possible. Yeah. It was off and I realized I was watching it. I was actually in the film, because I'd seen it enough times.
Yes.
And then I realized that so much stuff, the 80s were a very iconic time that way, because everything was very dynamic and oiled and glossy, and you told the story through the image so you could sell it internationally, right? And that was the whole point of all the action movies being so big. And then I thought, Call Me By Your Name is set in the 80s. It's almost like he unintentionally replicated that moment in cinema without making it his aesthetic. It's just this beautiful ride-along.
I didn't think about that, actually. I think it's such an intemporel. I don't know how. For me, there's no date on the movie. There's something that is just. It could have happened now. It could have happened like in the 50s. It just. That was a quality that I really liked about it as well, because it didn't feel it was set in time. It was just a very classic, beautiful story, and just so beautifully told.
Yeah, and I know Timothee Chalamet had been in films before, but that was really the one that
made him a star. Yeah, definitely.
The little smooth icon that he is today.
Yeah, he is an icon.
To say it. I met Paul Kircher, who's the lead in Christophe Honoré's film, and I think he has a similar look, and the audience responded to him the same way, but he's very consciously trying to move against it, I think. He's growing a little wispy beard, and he's just trying to set himself apart. And you can see the fight, not in the film, but at the festival, of his stylist trying to go in that direction, and him just pushing back. And I think it's such a strange little space to occupy. Like there could only be one. It's
weird, because people put like so much... I think I probably felt it as an actress as well, because some actors are really, really lucky, because they get cast for their essence and what they really are. I feel this is what happened probably with Timothée, because I think it feels like what he does in his movie feels really similar to what he is essence in real life, I feel. And sometimes you tend to be miscast a little bit, and I felt like for my part, I felt like I was miscast a lot of times because I was always being casted in like the roles of like very nice, innocent, young, nice woman, and I felt sometimes I was kind of bored with that vision because I felt it was really cliched, and I felt I had so much more to express, and I felt a little bit caught in that image.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
it is a little present, and I feel like there's a lot of actors going through this, and but some actors get really lucky.
Yeah, I think the great irony of it is that if you're good enough as that character, people want to see you continue.
Yeah, all the time in that type of character.
And you are growing.
Yeah.
You're already beyond it by the time you finish the first shoot, right?
Yeah.
So you just want to keep trying. And, Chalamet is doing different things, and I think Paul Kircher will be okay.
Yeah.
He seems to have a good head on his shoulders for his own direction, and his interests that are much more. I think he wants to. We made a joke about him because Honoré had directed Léa Seydoux, and now he's directing him. So, well, Seydoux makes Bond movies. They're looking for the new Bond, and he's like, I could never. But then he kind of thought about it for a second.
Yeah,
he's just like,
course.
you're going to be fine.
Everything's possible.
Yeah, but he would. I think he would jump at the chance to do something like that. Not a giant franchise movie, but anything that lets him be more physical.
Yes. I totally understand. I mean, you want a challenge too, and that's definitely what I mean. As an actress, that's what I was looking for. And for some reason, I felt sometimes that I would not meet those type of challenges.
Yeah, it's a film like, I was trying to come back around to how Michael Stuhlbarg is so revelatory in Call Me By Your Name, but really all three of these, and we do have to deal with the Armie Hammer of it all.
Yeah, it is.
Which is incredibly awkward now.
Oh, it is so awkward.
Because the film I remember when the movie...
But you know what? It kind of ruins the movie a little bit too. That's the thing. I mean, I prepped the movie before everything happened around it, but now I feel like, and I've seen the documentary on Armie Hammer as well.
I have not seen that yet.
The House of Hammer, I think, and it's about his family as well, whatever. And but I feel that if I watch it again now, it's like tinted with something that I don't like, and I feel it's so violent and not sane. Yeah. So I don't think I would be able to watch the movie the same way, which is very sad because I really love this movie. It was such an inspiration,
But I even remember thinking at the time, I may have even written it, that it's just the right side of being a story about an older man taking advantage of a younger boy.
Is it? He's not taking advantage.
Well, but it could be read that way, right? Because of all the. I don't think it is, and I'm certain that that's not what Guadagnino thinks.
Yeah.
But people are constantly looking for even now, right now in the UK, there's this ferocity over transgender people and refusing to accept. Like there's half the country. It's just a wedge issue. It's just being used to make the populace angry about something.
Yeah.
And in the States, the right-wing trolls are using groomer as an attack word. It used to be pedo, and now it's groomer because it's more insidious. To just slander anyone they don't like and make them stop talking and frighten them and shame them into being quiet. And I'm kind of surprised that no one's brought that up yet, because if you take, 2 steps back and come at it with a homophobic lens, this is a story about a relationship. If you step back and heard,
I don't think the right trolls will watch Call Me By Your Name. That's the thing. That's probably why they didn't say anything about it.
But I'm surprised they haven't gone after it now because of Hammer. That's what I mean. It could be a target.
I mean, the movie's already out, so I guess they don't really care. But also, I don't think they're really sensible to that type of cinema as well. They're...
Yeah, that's true. They're not watching 2.25 hour European love stories.
No, they're not. And that's too bad for them, Too bad for them.
That's always what I say when people knock a movie for some perceived content. It's like, if you watched it, you might actually find that it's not only not what you think it is, but it could make you think things differently and change things. But they're afraid of that.
But even for me, like it's like La Vie d'Adèle from Keshish. It wasn't even like a homosexual story for me. It was just it's just a pure love story. And in my movie, it's a boy and a girl, and there's no difference. I really feel like, it's just a story about love, and it's such a universal thing to tell, so I don't know. But they're silly and stupid. I don't care.
It's exhausting. It really is.
And
then you also have, actually, let's go straight into Falcon Lake then, because this is a short episode, and I don't want to let it float away. You've made a movie that kind of plays with the language of horror cinema.
A little bit,
but just at the beginning.
Flirting with it.
At the outset, in order to just keep us on our toes the whole time, which I thought was marvelous. You've done a reverse Harold and Maude.
Yeah.
It's not that at all.
No.
But in the first 90 seconds,
yes,
you tease us with a completely different tone, and then it never. I just love that we're in your head for just long enough without understanding it, and so for the rest of the movie we keep floating back into it.
Yeah.
And it's just such a graceful way to tell the story, because you're right, it is a love story and it's something we've kind of understand and recognized and something we've seen before.
Yeah.
But I imagine people coming in after the opening, missing that moment, and just wondering why everyone else is giggling.
Yeah,
throughout.
you know what? I've thought about that too, because there's always like people arriving late at the screening, and when they do, I'm so pissed. I'm like, you won't get anything, or like it's gonna. The first scene is so important. It really sets the tone for the movie, definitely. But I mean, I think it took me a little time when I was writing it to really find like the identity of the story, because it wasn't like a desire in the beginning to do a coming of age story. It just happened, and it's a very loose adaptation of a graphic novel. And I read the graphic novel and I really liked it, and I felt like, oh, this is a subject that I feel I can work with, because it was, I've been through, first love, and I've been through my adolescence, and it's well digested now, and I feel like it really, go into it and analyzing it, but I was like, why do I want to tell this story? Why do I want to do another coming of age story? There's so many of them, and in the first version of the script were more classical, and we couldn't find financing for the movie, probably for that reason. And then I just started to bring it back to the type of movies that I like, and the type of movies that touches me and that I like to see, which is genre movies. And slowly we got that I added this ghost story to it, and once that happened, everything like took form, like everything became so much clearer, and that's when we started to have money for it. But it took a while. Like it took maybe a year and a half before we could really find the identity and the color of the story.
Oh, and it's so hard to collapse that tone into two sentences, and to get people to invest in it emotionally as well as financially, I suppose. Boy meets girl, girl meets boy. There's something in the water.
Exactly. I mean, I always say it's a love and ghost story. That's my synopsis.
Hey, it's Norm, interrupting my own show to tell you about the latest Shiny Things newsletter, my weekly dispatch about physical media, culture, and maybe even the odd streaming thing. Last week I bent my own rules and reviewed a stage play, The Shark is Broken, and then did a deep dive into the wonderful neo-noir and Jim Sheridan box sets being released by Australia's Via Vision under the Imprint Films label. Sign up for a 14-day free trial at shiny-things.ghost.io or find a link at the Simcast Twitter account. Did you miss me writing about stuff? I did. Come check it out.
So we've sort of covered the other point of the conversation, which is what of Call Me by Your Name have you lifted or absorbed? But it's when you chose it, it made sense. Like it made perfect sense to me. It's like, oh, of course, this is an influence. But I wouldn't have guessed it from the movie alone. I wouldn't have seen the Guadagnino influence, which I think is kind of marvelous, because the filmmakers who have tried to do what he does have kind of gone wide. He's not I have to admit, he's not my favorite filmmaker. I find him...
you know what? I mean, what I really like about Guadagnino is that he's trying so many different things, and I really like what touched me the most and what moved me the most in Call Me by Your Name, it was the simplicity of it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a fan of every movie that he does, but the simplicity of Call Me by Your Name really, really inspired me. And I was always trying, and we didn't have a lot of time shooting at 26 days. We were shooting in film, so everything had to be really restricted. And I was always trying to find a way to tell every scene in, not a lot of shots. So, that's probably why I liked it. But I understand why. Are you not a fan?
I find he has a tendency towards textural excess, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. But did you feel that in Call Me by Your Name?
A little tiny bit. I just think it could have been a little shorter. And but the thing is, I don't know what I'd cut.
Yeah.
It's all essential. It really is. But it moves so slowly. And again, it's one of those things where you see a film during a film festival and you're just like... it's the thing where your brain is already going and the movie is lulling you into its rhythms, and so maybe it is just the first half hour. We're being introduced to Elio at his pace, and we have to understand how restless he feels because nothing is happening.
Yeah.
And in my mind, it's like, yeah, nothing is happening. I get that. Can we have more something happening? And then it all starts, and it's fine.
Because it's happening inside of him, you know?
Yeah.
For me, it was enough action, because you could feel that there was something just building and growing inside of him, and I could really witness it. I could, taste everything. It was, I don't know. I don't agree with you.
Yeah, so that's completely fine. I kind of like that, actually, when that happens. I think, for me, my favorite of his is probably still A Bigger Splash, just because it is so generous to its performances. And Call Me By Your Name, just by its own aesthetic, is smaller and tighter and quieter.
Yeah.
And you don't have a Ray Fiennes barreling into the frame to just take over for about 20 minutes and then run away again.
Yeah.
But I have rewatched it, and I watched Stuhlbarg. I just focus on him, on the father.
Did you see Amor?
Yes.
That's beautiful. Did
Wait,
you like
the Haneke Amor?
No.
Amor.
Amore. I think that it's called the.
I'm not sure.
It's one of his first movies. It's with Tilda Swinton.
Oh, Guadagnino's.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was thinking about Stuhlbarg and going off the version.
I think it's I Am Love.
I Am Love, yes, of course. Yeah. We've actually done an episode on it.
Oh, good. Yeah.
We've done, this is a third, I think. We have done, someone picked A Bigger Splash. We did I Am Love maybe 3 years ago, I think. It comes up in waves.
Okay.
His films. And Suspiria, of course. Jordan Navarro's picked Suspiria.
Yeah.
A few months ago for our 400th episode. I do too many of these. So this is our fourth, actually. This is our fourth of his films, and no one has picked.
Bigger Splash?
No, Bigger Splash we did.
Okay.
I Am Love, Bigger Splash, Suspiria, now Call Me By Your Name. Yeah, those are the four that define his decade.
He keeps inspiring people.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, and this is good. I mean, this is good too, but I come back to Michael Stuhlbarg in the ending and how that defines his character so much, and it's. And then you watch the film again, I guess is what I'm trying to come back to. I haven't seen it nearly as many times as you have, but when I've watched it again, I watched Stuhlbarg in the frame. I just follow him and watch him, and everything is in his performance. He sees their attraction, he sees what's coming, he understands, and he's always just about ready to come forward, but he never does.
Yeah.
And the poise, like a cat ready to jump, but in a helpful way.
Yeah, and I felt it was so refreshing also to see a story like that being told without antagonists. You know, people were just like letting them, live their thing, and I felt that was really refreshing, because I feel like usually when we tell stories about two men falling in love with each other, there's always like a guy shaming them, or somebody shaming them around them, and it wasn't about that at all.
Yeah, I think Europe gives them the excuse, right? Because we have the North American audience has the illusion that things are better.
Yeah.
Over there, quote unquote.
Yeah, it's just an illusion. I mean,
I know.
Gay and trans people are getting murdered even in the street in Europe. So.
Yeah. Well, and we're seeing dozens of films with queer themes here this year that are doing the same thing. They're sort of trying to avoid the oppression cliche and just let the characters exist. Most of the films I've seen at the festival are actually surprising in that they're not coming out stories at all. They all take place after the fact, and then they'll use genre here or there. They'll use there was a mystery with queer themes. I mean, Stranger by the Lake did that as well, where it's just everybody's out already. We don't need to tell you their awful, tragic coming out story, if there is one. We just meet them now when they're living and happy.
That's such a good movie, Stranger by the Lake.
Yeah.
Such a good movie.
No one's picked that yet. Just, if anyone's listening.
I should have, maybe, because I love it.
You can pick more than one, I guess. You can celebrate cinema, but I think we're running out of time. But I don't want to. The last thing I want to do is be greedy and take up someone else's time. But the space that you've given to your cast as well is like, it's as generous as what he's doing with Stuhlbarg. I think I found myself watching everyone in the frame in Falcon Lake, and part of that was just waiting to see if the ghost would show up. I think like the movie has prepared me for something, especially with your choice of aspect ratio. I'm waiting for something to reach out from the sides. Yeah. But it made me hyper conscious of all the actors in the frame, which I think is clearly a decision. We've given all of them work to do. Yes. No one is just standing around.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, I wasn't doing very dynamic shots. It was important that the dynamics would come from the actors moving or doing something. So we would set the frame, and then they were moving inside that frame and creating energy inside that frame. So that was a deliberate thing.
Yeah. And you only had 26 days to shoot, but how long did you get rehearsal time? How long did it take to cast?
No, not a lot, because we were right in the pandemic, and my actor Joseph came from France, so we shot in Quebec. And my actor Joseph came from France, and he had to be in his hotel for 2 weeks before.
Oh, it was that far back?
Oh, yeah.
Full quarantine?
Well, it was a year ago, so it was full quarantine, so he had to stay for 2 weeks, and then I think I had like 4 days with him before the shooting, so that wasn't a lot. But I trusted him. He's a very, very instinctive actor, even though he's super young. But he just has it in his veins, he's really, really smart. And I knew that he would be all right. And during those 4 days that I had with him, I worked with him and Sarah to do I wanted to rehearse like the sensible scene, the more sensual scenes, because I wanted them to be like just. Actually, I did that, and I did the dancing scene with Joseph, because he was really, really scared of the dancing scene, probably more than the sensual scenes, which was really funny. But I wanted them to go through that, so it would be clear and done in their head, and then we can just move on and do the other stuff.
So what's next? Do you have another film plan, more ambitious, a bigger?
Actually, I think I'm gonna go a little bit more bolder in the genre type, and I'm currently writing my second one, which will be very loosely adapted again from a story of one of my best friends who stayed in a haunted apartment for 2 months in the city of Quebec. So, yeah.
They have those.
Yeah. They're there, they exist.
My thanks to Charlotte Lebon, whose beguiling first feature Falcon Lake opens this Friday, October 14th across Canada. If you're in Toronto, you'll find it at the TIFF Bell Lightbox. Thanks also to Melanie Mingotu and Zoe Verdier. They know what they did. You can find Charlotte's mostly abandoned Twitter account at LebonLebon, all one word, and you can find Call Me By Your Name on Blu-ray and DVD from Sony Pictures Home Entertainment. It's also streaming on Hollywood Suite and Tubi in Canada, on Netflix and HBO Max in the US, and you can find it to rent or buy on various VOD platforms in the US and Canada. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Norm Wilner, and you can find this podcast there at Semcast, S-E-M-Cast, and on the web at someoneelsesmovie.com. The first year of the show is still available for just $20 at payhip.com/Semcast. That's the first 52 episodes of Someone Else's Movie, 45 of which aren't currently available anywhere else. And check out my newsletter, Shiny Things, at shiny-things.ghost.io. I think you'll enjoy it. Our theme song is by The Last Year. If you like it, or the show in general, please say so. Leave a review wherever you've been listening. Every little bit helps, it truly does. And check out the other shows on the Frequency Podcast Network while you're doing that. Stay safe, watch movies, wear a mask if you go out, get your booster when you can. I'll see you next week.